Improving in a competitive game is tough and requires serious dedication and focus, but thankfully you're interested in the exact opposite, hoping to improve at the game you love as slowly as possible. This video will cover 6 tips to keep you at the same skill level, at least one of which you're already doing, and it may even keep you from improving altogether. Let's start with number 1. Practice the things you're already good at and ignore the things you don't already know how to do. Practice is one of the quickest ways to improve, but to properly nip that improvement in the bud, you'll need to make sure you only practice the things you're already good at. Stick to practicing your chain grabs and ignore learning how to wave shine up smash as Fox. If you don't really have a good punish game out of shield, who cares? Just keep dash dancing. As long as you're practicing the same things and not changing it up, you're doing the right thing. Expanding your toolset only gives you more consistent punishes and neutral victories, which is exactly what you don't want. Remember, focusing on addressing your weaknesses or expanding your existing set of skills is an easy trap to making it out of pools. Speaking of practice, make sure your practice is as inconsistent as possible. Rather than practicing for 15 minutes twice a day, practice for 2 hours on a single day, then stop practicing entirely for the rest of the week. Your brain is much less likely to retain the information and skills you worked on, so you'll manage to avoid actually getting better, just like you wanted. Ideally, you'll also do this while you play friendlies, and treat friendlies as tournament games where you want to avoid trying anything new because you're so obsessed with winning and only winning. Aim to play without thinking critically, and the times you do play won't actually make you much better, which again, is the goal. But maybe you've already got the practice thing covered. In fact, maybe you don't practice at all. That's a good start, but it's not enough to prevent you from improving. To truly stay the same skill, you'll want to make sure you continue using the same techniques to win games, even after they've stopped working. You love shield grabbing anytime someone hits your shield, so keep doing it. So what if your opponent knows how to space around your grab range or do late aerials on shield? If it works at a low level, it's probably just good, right? The important part here is to never unlearn the bad habits that you developed solely because they work at your current skill level, as keeping these habits will ensure you'll stay at that level pretty much indefinitely. Plus, if it didn't work the first 5 times, who's to say it won't work the 6th time? I'd also recommend never watching replays of your games or asking better players what you're doing wrong, as this will only make these mistakes more noticeable and easier to fix, which you must avoid. However, even after all this, motivation may rear its ugly head, pushing you forward in your improvement journey, so to prevent this, it's time to set goals that will only hurt you and destroy any motivation that you do have. Make a goal that's deliberately vague and hard to measure, so that you'll never know whether or not you achieved it. Even more importantly, try to aim the goal as high as possible so failure is almost certainly guaranteed. This will only make you beat yourself up more, which may even make you quit the game entirely, which is a great way to stop improving. Remember, the ideal goal is SMART, meaning specific, measurable, actionable, for which you're responsible, and time-bounded. This means a goal like, I will make it out of pools at a local tournament by the end of the month, needs a lot of reworking. Instead, focus on vague goals like, I will get better, as you won't have a clear indicator of whether or not you've achieved it, which is perfect. You could also focus on goals that don't actually move you any closer to improvement, but still make you feel like you're doing something. Make a goal to learn how to multi-shine with Fox by the end of the month, even though you still can't hit up throw up air yet. The more you try to run before walking, the more likely you are to stumble, and that's just what we want. However, maybe you're still worried about improving. At this point, I'd recommend focusing on things that are completely outside of your control. Even though there are many things that you can control in and outside of the game, to stifle improvement, you'll want to focus on the things you can't change. Get frustrated by your character's lack of options or weak matchups, and if there are examples of players succeeding with your character in spite of those bad matchups, just ignore that altogether. If you're consistently struggling in a matchup, actively avoid practicing it as much as possible. Instead, just cross your fingers that you won't run into that character in bracket, even if they're super common. If you feel your mentality is a problem, just ignore it. Treat every issue as unsolvable and direct your attention to things you can't change. As long as you make it not your responsibility, you'll pretty much ensure you'll never improve, which again, is what we're looking for. 2 thumbs up to that. If you're in a position where you've lost faith in your character, do not switch. Again, you want to avoid actively changing anything, as change might backfire into improvement or beating the characters you're struggling against. So continue to stick to the same character and just complain about how bad the matchup is. By now, you've almost ensured you're never going to improve, but this last step will seal the deal entirely. Rather than focusing on a single character and learning how to deal with certain situations, make sure to switch characters as much as possible. The more you play the game, the more you'll start to improve, but by spreading your efforts across all 26 members of the cast, you'll halt your improvement substantially. If you can, I'd recommend focusing on obscure tech that's very character specific, so that any knowledge or skills that you do acquire aren't transferable to other characters. If it's not already clear, the goal is to focus on not developing fundamental skills and just developing random useless tech that won't really make you win games. Now, I know I said there would be 6 tips, but I'll give you guys one more as a bonus. Make sure to never subscribe to YouTube channels that make videos on how to improve, as they're only going to speed up the improvement process and prevent you from getting stuck. I'd also recommend not supporting them on Patreon, as this would only make it easier for them to put out regular content, which would only make your improvement more likely. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.